Hello everyone, welcome back to my podcast channel. This is Alice in Industryland. Today we have a special guest, Marco, here with us. Would you like
Hello.
to introduce yourself to our audience, please?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Marco. I am a fashion designer currently based out of Vancouver. My brand, you can see some items behind me, is Marco F. Bruini. The F is my middle name. It stands for Florio. And yeah, I'm basically just trying to figure myself out, figure out what my brand is, what my name is, and pretty much just jumbling my way through the fashion industry right now in Vancouver.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Would you like to explain a little bit about this amazing collection behind us?
Yeah, so I brought, what is that, six pieces with me today. Basically, the inspiration for my collection was escaping an oil rig explosion. So there's a lot of burnt elements, there's a lot of rust, rust dyeing, rust colors, leather elements in these pants and in this jacket. Like I mentioned, I believe, dyeing. So a lot of these garments have aspects to them that they weren't like this initially and then they became this. And lots of fraying as well too. So like the lining on these pants, as well as this jacket has a lot of fraying to it. And just kind of like different ways of constructing, I guess. Even like with this stitching, it's kind of an unusual way to stitch. But yeah, that's artisanal. I like to consider my clothes as very artisanal.
Awesome. Yeah. When I first saw this collection, I immediately fell in love. I was really impressed with all the finishes, all the, like stitching, and every detail is very top notch. And
Thank
when I
you.
was looking at inside of the garments too, that's when you can tell this is well done.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
So yeah, your collection was featured in last season of Vancouver Fashion Week, right?
Yes.
How was that experience for you?
It was definitely pretty crazy. It was the first time I've actually showed a collection to that extent before. So like I did have a background, or I guess I went to fashion school, so I had done like a fashion show, but that was a very minimal, I guess, comparative to this. It was definitely cool being able to show something with a lot of people being there. It was cool being in the background, seeing all the things that come together to make a show happen. I've definitely been in an experience where you normally like kind of pick your models in a sense before. In this circumstance, I only had a couple of models that I chose. So that was kind of, I'll say an odd situation where it was basically, I can't remember how many of them, maybe 20 models kind of just surrounded me, and I was kind of just like, all right, now I'm gonna use you. So it's kind of weird being in a situation where I'm kind of just like, I'm not gonna use you, but I'm gonna use you. But in general, the experience in itself was pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So were you able to find the models you like for your collections? Everyone you need?
I think it worked out the way that I wanted it to. Again, it was kind of just like, I can't think of the word on the top of my head right now, but kind of like sporadic, I guess, where it was kind of like, I didn't know who was going to be my models because I didn't go through that process.
Okay.
But once you kind of like put people in front of you and you think about what you actually want, you can kind of like piece it together. So I think it came together the way I wanted it to, especially
Yeah.
after all the makeup and stuff was done and everything.
So you said you came from Edmonton,
yeah.
right? What made you move out to Vancouver?
So I have a business degree. So I have a degree from Edmonton in marketing. The whole time I was kind of doing my degree and everything like that, it kind of just felt, I don't want to say boring, but I consider myself to be more creative and such, and I wasn't getting that. I've always been into fashion, designing and such, and there was just nothing in Edmonton. And at the time I had a friend who had moved to Vancouver and mentioned coming here. So I kind of just looked at schools, and after doing 4 years, I didn't really want to go to school for another 4 years, even really 2. So I ended up settling on the school that I went to because it was so short. But again, that's kind of how I ended up here. It's been good in that sense, and yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I totally get it. I'm from Alberta myself too, so we know about the industry out there.
Yeah,
the
it's
creative
nothing.
work is not very available.
It's not even that crazy here either in Vancouver, but it's definitely for those people that live in Vancouver who don't think it's very big. If you compare it to Edmonton, trust me, it's miles above in this regard, especially with fashion. It's kind of just like a stepping thing. It's like you move from Edmonton to Vancouver, and then you kind of go to, I don't know, Montreal, and then you go to LA and then London, who knows? But there's like a stepping stone, I feel like.
Yeah. So do you have a goal in mind after Vancouver? You might move to somewhere else?
I would like to. I'm trying to like figure out a lot of things in regards to my brand, if I can afford to continue making collections at this point. Ideally, yeah, I would like to honestly move to London if I can. London, England, I should say. Obviously, like something like Montreal too would be something that has potential. I just feel like those places are definitely more like better, I guess, in terms of actually, I don't want to say appreciate, I don't want to come across as an asshole, but like this kind of stuff, right? Because I feel like Vancouver, while there is some fashion, it's definitely more tech wear based. It's more kind of like outerwear based, whereas you can tell from looking at my stuff that's not the case. So I don't generally feel like I fit into the mold of Vancouver, if that makes sense. So I do see myself moving potentially to London or somewhere where my aesthetic maybe fits in a bit more.
Okay. So are you planning to have another collection after this?
Great question. Fantastic question. I would love to, and partially through making this, I had been designing, and I have, like I said, been designing things. I have fabrics and stuff like that already. It's just a question as can I afford to actually create a collection. This collection on its own took me a long time to do because I'm kind of, I don't want to say, I'm definitely an anal person, but I felt the need to do everything on my own. So I like designed this, I made all the patterns for it.
Oh, wow.
I sewed everything myself. I dyed everything myself. I created all the music for my show. I created all the video. I literally did everything by myself because I felt the need to know how to do everything to some extent, so that the next time I do something, then I have like a lens of how everything works, and then I can kind of like pass things off to other people. So with that in mind, I would like to do another collection. I probably wouldn't do it all by myself anymore because it's not feasible and it's not time. Like you can't take as much time as it took me to do this, or you won't get anything done. But we'll just kind of see where things go. We'll see if I'm able to. I guess I would love to.
Yeah, that makes sense because I totally agree with you. That was me starting in this industry too.
Yeah.
I know how to do hair, makeup, styling, and everything. I was like so happy and enthusiastic when I was going in.
Yeah.
I can do 0 to 100, but if we're thinking of more long term,
It's not possible.
yeah, it's not really possible.
Totally.
So yeah, I think it's a great learning block
For
to
sure.
go through. Yeah.
It's definitely, you definitely have to like, when you first get into like a creative field, I feel like the reason you get into it is because you're inspired, you're passionate about that creative aspect. But then if you want to make it an actual job, you have to kind of figure out, okay, how can I still be creative but actually be profitable or break even or get to a point where I can still be creative and then make money. It's definitely a double-edged sword that you kind of have to bat around and figure out.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So would you have any one crucial advice that you might want to give to potential designers who wants to start their own brand in Vancouver?
Yeah, I mean, breaking it down into one's pretty difficult. I think one of the biggest things is definitely kind of maybe don't do it on your own, like myself. Don't feel like it's wrong to have to ask. I know this is very cheesy and probably stereotypical to say, but don't think it's wrong to ask for help, I guess, in a sense. I mean, we're super lucky that we live in a day and age where there's so many like YouTube videos and things like that, where if you are struggling, you can look at videos to help you. But also just in general, if you have friends that are willing to help you, even if they don't know potentially what's happening, I guess, they can still lend a hand, lend an ear, even if it's just like cutting fabric or something like that. But it's definitely kind of going back to even the initial advice. It's definitely not easy. I feel like fashion is very like glamorous from the outside world and looking at it, but it's a lot of work. So kind of be prepared for the level of work that goes into it.
Yeah, that's an amazing advice. And I think that's a hard step to take as one strong independent creator, to branching out to, okay, now I need to collaborate with other people. and I think that's a great experience.
Totally.
Yeah, so if you guys want to stay connected and ask more questions to Marco, what are some ways that they can contact you?
So you can check out my Instagram, which I'm currently trying to make a little bit better than it's always been. It's been horrible in the past, but it's just the brand name. So it's Marco F as in Frank Bruini, all one word, no underscores or anything. You can also check out my LinkedIn, which is the same, Marco F Bruini, which kind of has work, everything regards to it attached to it. Other than that, I don't really use a lot of other social media. I started a TikTok, but hasn't really gone anywhere. So LinkedIn and Instagram are the two main ones for sure.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll have the links down below so
Beautiful.
You guys can check his accounts and possibly reach out to him. But thanks again for joining our podcast.
Thanks for having me, Alice. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. This was our episode 3, and see you guys in the next episode.